Hey everyone, this is Cindy. This is an open door. It is October 17th, and this particular program is entitled Finding Truth Everywhere. I'm practicing being my Amy. I've been listening to how Amy opens her meetings, and she always has this cool introduction. So I've been attempting to practice my Amy. Um, we were assigned this video from Guy Finley, and I have a summary of Cindy. I even wrote it in my notes. Here's Cindy's version of what Guy was teaching, which may or may not sound like him. But first, I have a song, and I'm certain I've played this song before, at least once or twice, or maybe three times in various meetings. But it fits, and I enjoy watching the video. So for those, because I'm putting it on pause, and then Barbie's going to remember to make sure that I unpause it. I always like to tell Barbie she has that job. Um, the name of the song is I Can See Clearly Now. And if you watch the video, uh, I sense you can see how it relates. The Guy Finley video. And it's Jimmy Cliff, and it is a montage from the movie where the Jamaicans decide they want to enter the Winter Olympics. And so somehow our beautiful Jamaican friends, with the help of Jack Black, um, become bobsled Olympians. All things are possible. All right, let's put it on pause. Here we go. Wasn't that fun? Yesterday afternoon here we went to the yoga studio, which is on the compound or in the complex, laid out all these yoga mats, turned on the overhead speakers, and about a dozen of us laid back and listened to Joel Goldsmith for an hour. Most of the people in that room had never heard him before. I was thinking about all of us. It was pretty extraordinary. Right. So this is Cindy's version. It's not a lot. You ready, Barbie? There's no levels. All right. I want us to consider, and man, I'm almost tempted to change the day of this meeting only because I know Richard can't make it on Thursdays. And I keep thinking, Richard, don't we love Dr. Hawkins? All right. Let's just for a moment, there's this level of consciousness, right? On one end, and I got Joel Goldsmith in my head saying 99% of human population will never be part of what we're doing with the infinite way, right? Most of what we see in the world out there is living their best lives in their suffering and their pain and whatever without a thought that they're anything other than what they see in front of them, right? Some percentage of that. That's one that's one level of this consciousness scale. And I don't care if the people you're seeing have $1 billion or less than nothing, right? We're just talking about the level of consciousness. Am I aware that there's something out other than, I was I remember my Aunt Florence once saying, I was born, I lived the best life I can, and then I'm gonna die and they're gonna bury me in a plot in Staten Island. I've never forgotten that. Now, I don't think she's going to be buried in Staten Island anymore because she's still alive and she's living in Miami. So I don't know where the plot is exactly, but it's just that thought, you know? That's one level. The other level, and I don't know anyone physically or aware of anyone that's currently alive, but that other level is there's no thought of separation, right? Everything is love. Maybe it's my vision of who Ramana Maharshi was while he was still in body. Just being love, no thought of another, no matter who you are in front of me, all you see is God. So that's the other level of consciousness, Richard was here, he'd give me a number for it. I don't know what the number is, but you get that, right? And in the scale of consciousness, David Hawkins gives us a map. And the beautiful thing about calling it a map is knowing that that's all it is. It's like a 2D representation of a multi-dimensional reality. So the points between fully unconscious and knowing and being embodying the truth of who you are is infinite, right? Is that everybody with me? Okay. So it's really a continuum of some sort of craziness. From that space, wherever you are right now, you could live your life. But if there is any kind of desire to rise in consciousness, which we're all here, so there is some sort of desire of wanting to know what's truer than our current experience, then it becomes useful to accept that we ain't right now seeing the truth. We're seeing some sort of misperception. And Barbie, interrupt me at any time because I'm literally speaking through my interpretation of the email you sent me last night. Okay, so that's how. Okay, so if you're not following, just unmute and say "but." So in this moment right now, there's a sense that there's something more. And from that sense of there being something more, it becomes useful to accept that everything I'm seeing outside of the sense of self, and that includes what's going on with my physical body. Like if a doctor has given me a diagnosis, that isn't an object in awareness. But the truth of the matter is, as long as we're seeing an object in awareness, there's a form of separation, and so there's some level of misperception. Joel Goldsmith says that what I am experiencing right now is simply a reflection of my current level of consciousness. Yeah. Donald Hoffman states it's very useful to accept that I am viewing my current reality through a virtual headset. So all I'm experiencing is what I've been programmed to experience. It's a virtual headset. Scientific version of the same thing. To me, it's the same teaching. And all of the conversation about recognizing that everything I'm seeing is nothing other than a shadow on Plato's wall, to me is the same pointing. I am not seeing what's real because I apparently am seeing a world that's not me. Even if I'm conceptually recognizing that everything is God, I seem to be experiencing a world out there that's something other than me. And based on this, all of these teachings, all I am seeing, the Course teaches the same thing too. What I am seeing is the shadow of what is being held here, my conditioning, my stories, my beliefs, all the stories I'm telling about the world. That's all I'm seeing. I'm not having a relationship with life or the world. I am interacting with my stories that are colored by my current level of consciousness. I'm waiting for Barbie.
Okay, so in order to get past that thing, that's why,
Do you understand what I'm saying so far? Because what the solution is next.
okay,
Does
I'm
that make
holding,
sense?
yes, I'm holding all my shadows inside me right now. And that's
Well,
what I'm seeing.
everything you're seeing and supposedly interacting with is a shadow of what is like a shadow. Light shines through an object or hits an object and creates a shadow. The object is what creates the shadow. Make sense?
Yeah, which shadows are thoughts, so all my thoughts are creating the shadow.
Thoughts are
Okay,
forms. Yep. Thoughts, ideas, beliefs, memories, you name it. Anything you believe is the form that creates the shadow. And what Guy was saying, and actually what A Course in Miracles teaches me, what Joel teaches me, even, in many ways, that conversation with Donald Hoffman and Rupert Spira, that where they're talking about a virtual headset, teaches me is that in any given moment, if I believe the world of shadows is real and all of my focused attention is placed on, if there's a tree and the leaves are blowing and you're watching the shadow of the leaves blowing, right? You're watching the shadow. No matter how hard you try to grab a leaf, a shadow leaf, and move it, you're gonna fail, right? The only way to change the shadow of the tree is to touch the tree. You got it. That's what he was talking about. He used a lot of words, right? But basically, all of our attempts to affect the shadow world they're gonna to make a better life, to rise in consciousness is gonna fail because you can't affect the shadow. You can't manipulate a shadow or a reflection. You can, if you're looking at the reflection of mountains and trees in a pond, you can throw like rocks into the pond and it's going to look like you're affecting the shadow because the pond is rippling. But when the pond settles, the shadow remains the same. You haven't really changed anything. So if the desire is to rise in consciousness, and it doesn't have to be, but if the desire is not to make a better shadow, but to rise in consciousness, then there are things to do, right? The first thing and the most important thing is to just know that that's what it is. Awareness alone is curative. Hey, Rana, have you ever heard that before? Awareness alone is curative. And how many times the other thing is the conceptual understanding of what we're talking about is actually really important. Not to mistake the concepts for reality, but Amy's taught on it more than once, and we've listened to this, right? Until we knew of the possibility of the tall shifts, our level of consciousness couldn't see the tall shifts. Somebody had to break the 4-minute mile, and then all of a sudden, human beings acknowledge the possibility of being able to break the 4-minute mile, and then it happens. So, a conceptual, I'm almost done, Melanie, and then it's all yours. The conceptual understanding is so number one, being aware of what's going on. Number two, the conceptual understanding becomes important. But after that, you know, we could talk about his exercise was a lot of fun to practice. Awareness, watching awareness is a lot of fun to practice. All of the experiments that Jenny Beal does is just an ability to practice withdrawing, believing, attention, practicing presence, all of those things. It doesn't even matter really which one of the practices. Coming to these meetings every day and immersing ourselves in truth allows you to change the form that is creating the shadow.
Oh, in other words, as long as I don't believe the shadow, I could surpass that.
Well, you withdraw believing that even when the shadow feels really real,
Yeah.
accepting that the truth is true and resting around it and not investing energy and try to changing the shadow. It's really
So I just use it like passing clouds. It's there, but I leave it alone. Okay, got it.
well, and it doesn't mean you don't go to the doctor appointment.
I know.
Right. Okay. And then my last thing here, well, there's two other points real fast, and then I'm handing it over. One, a lot of the teachers lately have been reminding me that thinking is not useful. And I'm just putting it out there because I think it's really funny. His quote, I think, was except that this pointing is not about thinking. Joel Goldsmith in video or audio I'm listening to really just states you got to stop thinking. A lot of these teachers just really talk about how the thinking mind is part of the distortion. So I'm putting it out there. And my last line is the first lesson in A Course in Miracles. Nothing I see means anything. And just like, how cool is that? Like, it all comes back to that. All right, Melanie. So happy you're here.
Oh, thank you. I have to leave a little early because my husband's had to pick him up at the dentist. But anyway, besides that, I just have one way, another way I kind of think of it is you can work within you're trying to if you're trying to work within the dream, that's like the shadows. You're trying to change the dream, which isn't real, if that makes any but
Right. So you're sinking back as the dreamer, whatever level that is, right?
yeah. But then even further back is you're not doing any of it. There's there's nobody there doing, and if you're caught up in the world and that's just what consciousness awareness is doing. If you're pulled to this, consciousness is pulling. There's no person there doing the practicing. It's what consciousness is, and it just takes you all that effort out of that struggle. Whatever happens is what awareness is doing. So that's we can get caught up in all these different levels and everything, but there's only the one doing everything, and it's not us individual. So I just try to take it back all the way.
Yeah. There was a sense, and it was enjoyable listening to him, right? But as with everything that we've been doing here, there was a sense that he was making something that at least right now feels very simple to me. He was adding a lot of extra words to it.
Yeah, it seems much more
Did you agree
complex.
with that?
Yeah, I thought it was so simple. It's just so simple, and it got into the mind then trying to figure out what he was trying to say.
Yeah,
And
and that was the exchange I was having with Barbie. One of the things I really, really love about what we're doing in this particular class is hearing all these different voices, right? Attempting to explain what is really unexplainable to the thinking mind. There was a line, Ron, I've mentioned it before, Rana and Diane Scott and I are doing this book study, A Mind at Home with Itself, and we're meeting later today. There's a line in the chapter that says, words are some things. How could you use words slash some things to explain nothing?
yeah, and I loved Amy's. Yes, on Tuesday, Helen Hamilton really. We don't know. It's just. And there was one final thing when he talked about putting your hand on your one eye. When I put one hand on one eye, I see 3D. I couldn't, I didn't understand. Did anybody?
You didn't see an increase of depth when you
Well, I only see more peripheral vision, but you see 3D with one eye. Doesn't, oh,
I was playing with it over and over and over again.
yeah.
And when I sort of just focused on one thing and allowed the one eye to just put that in, see what it was, and then I opened it to two eyes, there was an increase in depth.
Oh, okay.
And then when I relaxed the sense of who was thinking, who was seeing, and sort of held the whole body in the visual field, there was a deepening that I don't even know how to put words to.
Mm,
Yeah. It was
thanks.
fun. To me, it was fun. I don't I don't know if it was earth shattering. Like the stuff when we were playing with Douglas Harding's pointings, that was more cool with the tube and stuff.
Okay,
It's
thanks.
really fun to have you here, Melanie. I don't know. Is it fun having you here, Rana? Yes.
I'm fun most of the time.
Are you
So
gonna give us an update on the squirrels?
perhaps, but I'm very excited because what I wanted to share about is leading right from what Melanie was just talking about. So I played with it a little bit. And what I found was if I start with my eyes closed first, cover the eyes, they're both closed. So now I open the one eye and I sit with that for a minute. And then when I take this away, there's a widening out. You know, it took a little bit of sitting with each of those things, but the closing of the eye first really helped with that. And what happened for me, because he said, you know, we're always in a flat land dealing with shadows. So as I'm listening, I ended up getting in the car and I had to giggle at the end when he said, don't do this while you're driving. But I did do it while I was driving. And let me tell you what happened. You know, he explained that the experience of being in 3D is 4D. And I could really feel that in terms of when I use that expression, which words are so small, right? So short, that when I feel like I've dropped into that space, it's like a widening and a stepping back, a zooming out, a widening of the lens. And so when he said the experience of being in 3D is 4D, I felt it was that shift, that moment where I've taken the rest and the pause and widened out the awareness of what's going on and seeing the one thing instead of all the little nitpicky things in what's going on in front of me. What happened was with this inclusion, for me, the thought dropped. There was no thought there. There was just a seeing. And as I'm driving, the trees, I'm in the country, so there's a lot of trees, and they're not turning colors right now. I live in South Carolina. It's not happening. But I could see as the trees were going by, the layer of tree behind tree, branch over branch, tree over mailbox. I mean, and I'm just driving, 35 miles an hour down a country road. And it is like a spectacular movie because I can see the layers and it looks like one thing, but again, words, right? And so I just had such a delicious experience of that. And I'm feeling drawn to play with that more because just that process of going from nothing to one to two to include, there's just something really there for me. And everything popped like he was talking about with the questioner. And it happened before I got to that question. And so that was so neat, because then that person brought that up and I was like, oh, that just happened with the trees. There's a lot of things that the mind had preferences and opinions about while listening to that gentleman. And I'm grateful that I can notice those things and allow them to be there, but not turn off the video. I'm grateful that I can notice resistance and not follow through with pushing it away. So thank you for letting me share. Again, I wouldn't have these experiences without being exposed to all these different ways of looking at the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I was able to like sink into your description. So that was gorgeous. Should we let Amy talk? Can
I'm
we
going to
keep
talk,
Amy from talking?
see if I can not freeze up. Rhonda, that was a great description. I appreciated that. it was a moment of clarity when he asked us to just look more clearly and notice what we don't usually notice, which was great. But what I come back to is it's all arising in consciousness. Every bit of it. It's just being aware, you know. And in a way, consciousness is the first shadow. Right? It is the shadow.
Upon itself, right?
It's the first lens through which being looks at itself. What I got from it was something Rana pointed to, which was he so wanted to be understood. I mean, he basically said, maybe it was a different video of him I watched, he didn't expect the audience to get what he was saying. I thought that was interesting. And his need to be understood. He really wanted to share and wanted to be understood. There was so much passion in that. And it was clear from the questions at the end, everybody got what he was saying. There was a lot of you, I'm telling you in that, which led me to conclude that while he gets this intellectually, his practice of it he needs more immersion in his own teaching. But he taught at a level that I just found refreshing in a way. He was kind of a bit of a nuts and bolts guy. You know, he talked about the new order of knowing is expanded consciousness. That's the new order of knowing. And I think what he was trying to say, which we all know, is when we are aware that we are aware in that silence and we hold that, then things we weren't aware of before that are speaking, as a Course says, in the small, still voice, those come up into our awareness. And so we see more deeply, you know, the glass clarifies, right? The lens clarifies. But then going back to what Mel said, consciousness is just arising in the mind now. It's whatever consciousness wants. And he talked about the difference between the unlimited awareness of experience versus the unlimited experience of awareness. So I am the unlimited experience of awareness, and each of us is having an unlimited experience of awareness. You know, and my experience of awareness is whatever consciousness is putting in front of me right now, and I am that. So, yeah, I am inseparable. This is the other thing he said I liked. I am inseparable from the dimension into which my awareness has come. I am inseparable from the dimension into which my awareness has come. I thought that was something to ponder. So, thank you. I think this was great. Thanks for the share, Cindy. Really
Thank you.
delightful.
All right, Barbie, how we doing?
Okay. Now, I emailed you before. I just emailed you after I heard him talking. Now,
Right.
thank you for clarifying that because I understand it more. But I was hooked up on 3D and 4D. And after I heard what the, in the talk, she says, one lady says she's in blind in one eye. And then I understood where I'm coming from, you know. So I might not be able to see 3D like everybody else does, but I know that, but I know that I've seen 4D already. So I know I have to surpass the 3D in order to get to 4D. So that's where my hangup was.
Is there a hang up now?
No, because I know I'm beyond that now. And like I said, from his talk, sometimes whatever you give the video, sometimes it brings up something of my past, some scares. And then I guess I have to go through them a few times before they eventually leave me. And that's, you know, and then when I went on the couch because my stomach was hurting me, it's like I put it on the altar. God, help me understand what I'm going through. When I woke up, my pain was gone. I felt in a better mood. So I guess it helps. But I have to keep on going through layers and layers because sometimes these were so deep, I didn't even remember them. So the ones I remember, they don't come up unless a song or whatever comes up. But these, I never even thought of these until I heard him speak. So
You better check the letter and give that shit up.
So I know I'm heading in the right direction. So thank you all.
Thank you. Mm. I'm just calling Chuck out because I haven't heard his voice in a couple of days. And it's good to have you here, sir. Yeah, yeah.
I'll
There you
say
go.
hi so you can hear my voice, but I didn't get a chance to get to the video, so I just wanted to be here with you all.
I'm glad to have you. Is there anything at all you want to share, even if it's not about the video?
Just my gratitude for the opportunity to be here and be accepted and get to participate in what's happening. I'm really, really grateful.
I quoted you yesterday.
Uh-oh. Which one
Oh, I
was
did. I was talking, I don't remember who I was talking to, and I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but we were talking about relationships, and I said my dear friend Chuck reminded me when he was talking about his step grandson, he reminded me that, this boy is a projection of mine, I'm not a projection of his. And that one pointing, the reminder that I can never know, like this, every time there's a sense here that I know about somebody else's experience or what they think about me or what it is they're expecting from me is the word that's coming up is hogwash. I don't know where that word's coming from, but just this idea that the others in my life are my projections, and any part of my mental activity that wants to say I know what they're thinking or what they're expecting from me is ridiculous. I learned that from you.
well, then you just taught me back again.
Isn't that, isn't that why we show up here? Yeah. You remind, I'm waiting for someone to raise their hand at any given moment. But meanwhile, it was a very deep moment for me. His name was Bill Harris. Does anybody know who Bill Harris is? Bill Harris was in The Secret, and he was the founder of brain I don't remember, it was a brainwave entrainment program. And very, very, very early in my spiritual path, about when the secret was first launched, I ended up listening to an interview with Bill Harris and the gentleman who started the Sedona method. Can't even remember his name right now. But Bill Harris was the first one. He said, you know, we're all just Hamlet on a stage, right? And as long as we remember it's just a stage, it's fun. The moment we think we're Hamlet, we're suffering. And it dropped, and I got it. Fast forward 10 years, I am at a personal development seminar in Las Vegas. It's when I was managing Evolution Easy, and it was a big deal. And I found myself sitting behind this old gentleman, Bill Harris. And he had a very young assistant. It was probably a year before he died. And I had the opportunity to thank him and tell him how he affected my life, because it really was one of the first. And he looked at me and he said, I have no memory of ever saying that, but it sounds like something I would have said. And it was very, very funny. He was a projection, a reflection of my inner wisdom or higher self to feed me what I needed to know at the moment. But actually meeting an other who's had that name, who's supposedly that person, he had no clue of what he had, of what his influence on my life was, or even what it was. It was just a line. Yeah, that's what Chuck is for me. Hey, Amy.
You know, I remember, God, my hair, I apologize. I look like it doesn't matter. We're all just Hamlet on the stage. Yes, I remember when I first realized that, and oh, that was such a great pointer. But I feel like now, what we're coming to now is, I am Hamlet. I am the stage. I am the curtain. I am the audience. I am the city and the town in which the play. I wrote the play. I am reading the play. I am acting the play. I am everything in it. And that's, and furthermore, I don't know what that is. You know, I know I know it's all arising in my awareness, but that's about as far as I can go. And so what I wonder, Cindy, is what we can do as a community to really help each other move into this. Like, are there things we can do together to help us sit in this knowing and deepen the knowing, deepen it, deepen it, deepen it, to live in it more every day, every moment of the day. As we get pulled back in, as we get pulled back into the world and then pull back out. Sometimes when you get pulled into the world, it's very jarring. It's like, oh, I was just in the quiet, you know? And then it feels like it takes a lot of work to get back into, you know, is there a way we can learn to do that more smoothly, more directly, more, you know, I'm just opening this up to the group, because this is the next place we need to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you for putting words to it. This community here asked me to give a teaching on special relationships versus holy relationships. And you know, we're a virtual community. This is a group of 12 to 15 people who all live in the same place and are interacting with each other all the time. And I'm falling madly in love with everyone. And everyone is as different as you can be from each other. And they press each other, you know, when you live with people, you press each other's buttons, right? And so they've literally asked me to help with that. And I'm hearing the same a different variation of the same theme here. We all have some level of A Course in Miracles in us, and part of A Course in Miracles states that our relationships help us. When we learn how.
No, that's not what I'm
All right.
saying. I'm actually saying we all are moving into the knowing that everything that's in front of us is us. It doesn't have anything to do with special relationships or even with relationships, unless it is that we are in relation to all that we are. And we are all that is.
But in the
And
moment you talked about the jarring of being pulled out of it, doesn't that, when you're pulled out of it and you're looking around, at that point you're surrounded. To me, special relationship just means I'm separate from what I see and I'm expecting something from it. That's sort of my definition right now of special relationship and how to bring ourselves back.
this is great. We're already having the first discussion. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
does that ring true to you?
I understand what you're saying. That's not exactly how I was looking at it, but I can see what you're saying. I see the truth in what you're saying. And that's actually, that deepens my awareness of being everything and what pulls me out. Do I have a
So,
special relationship with the world, with the color green, with a certain sound? Do I have a special relationship with my dreams? Do I have a special relationship with my thoughts? Yes, all of that. Do I have a special relationship with my pain? Do I have a special relationship with time? All these things are special relationships.
so I'm just putting it out there because this is what I'm living with, and then I'm handing it over to Sandra. One of the things I'm recognizing as I'm moving in and out of this world is there's a really beautiful um, recognition, a memory of how I interacted with all these teachings 20 years ago. And part of what I'm looking at in a global basis, and this is not just for the 12 to 20 people that constantly show up in our spaces, right? And I'm not talking about, the people, like you said, we're pretty much all on the same line, right? But we have a whole bunch of different interactions with lots of people who are at various levels of understanding or consciousness. And I've become more and more sensitive to an invitation to help everyone that I touch, and not from my current level of understanding, but from what is most useful to anyone or everyone I touch. And that's new for me, if that makes sense.
I can
Um,
see that. Yeah, I can see that. Um, and one of the things that came to my mind as you're saying that is someone said once about Oprah Winfrey that she was a very, very advanced soul, but that she had withheld her advancement in order to stay on this planet, in this space, and use her wisdom to help others to rise, And I've always thought that's really wonderful. And I think that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. But at the same time, it comes to me that being in community like you're in right now, where everyone is on the same path and spends a lot of time together, there's a certain equilibrium that might be reached where people reinforce each other's state of knowledge, of knowing. And while that may make things very comfortable, it may also hold some people back
yeah,
because they're ready to make a shift into something else, but they have to do it alone. And they don't want to do it alone. They're comfortable where they are with their group, but they're being pulled by consciousness to move into something else.
Yeah, it's part of what's being looked at when people are afraid of rocking the boat, saying things that might trigger other people and how that feels, and it's all part of what's going on. Let's. I can't wait to hear what Sandra has to say.
I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say too. It just kind of spills out. I've never been afraid of rocking the boat. For some reason, one of my old bosses says, "You just say what you think." And I go, "Yeah, I do." I was going to say something about Guy Finley, that kind of big picture thing, but then I was so immersed in that conversation with you and Amy that my head went somewhere else. And I guess I want to react to that first. And that is, we don't have to do anything about that. That I love what you want. I want it too. I love it, but we don't have to do anything about it. It happens organically and naturally, and it will happen. And it is happening, and it's happening right here, right now, exactly what you're asking for. And I just love that. I love that I know that now, and I love that you know it. But
It's living in the question, though, right? I'm not looking for the answer.
No.
Somehow there's such value in asking the question and then
Yes.
opening and waiting to see what
Yes.
happens.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You said that's much better than I did. But that's what I mean, and I just love that he told us that somewhere that you don't have to do anything. But one thing that I think he did well for me, and by the way, I've loved every person, every podcast. There's not been one I haven't liked. I like the title, The Eyes to See. The eyes to see the dimensions of the divine kingdom within you. I like that title a lot. And he did a big picture thing for me. He laid out this beautiful contrast of the Shadowlands being in a cage like a animal in a prison of our thoughts. And then this other contrast, I was trying to write it down because I liked it. You are a creation of the deep. You can journey to the depths of an unnameable being, an unimaginable journey. It's inestimable. I liked all those words. To a new order of understanding, instead of being trapped in the Shadowland. That was a big picture thing for me that I liked the way he laid that out. And then I was having this, probably a similar feeling to you, Amy, when I watched this morning. I'm glad you gave me a heads up, Cindy, that it was long, because I gave myself extra time. And I was thinking, wow, I need to bring everybody to my house so we can talk about this all day long. There's no way we can talk about this in an hour. We need to marinate, in this, as you said. So one thing that I was reminded of as he was talking about, while we're diving in, I guess, to this deep level and practicing the presence, love the taste of what is timeless. It's a self-remembrance, he said. But also be present at the same time to the experience you're having. When I've heard Cindy say that many times in different words, and it's just, to me, the more I do that, the more it becomes a more natural flow. And something that's happened over the past month, and I think it's because I'm in this community that this has happened. what's happening now, okay, so something would happen. Cindy calls it a contraction. It could be anything. It could be a criticism that pops into my mind, a contraction about anything, any little thing. Many little things can cause that. And I would like pull back, maybe do a Byron Katie kind of questioning, maybe do an analysis of it. And it always helped. It always helped. And sometimes it could be quick and sometimes it'd be long. But what's been happening recently is different. What's been happening recently, and what made me think of it, he said at one point, when we're in a mirror darkly and then we get a conditioned response, he goes, "Let me punish myself now." He said those words. And I thought, that's what's been happening to me lately. I'll think, I don't like what my husband just did. And right, which pops into my head is, oh, so you want to hurt yourself again now. And then like the next day, something happened with my daughters. Oh, you want to hurt yourself now. I don't even have to go through all that practicing the presence, meditating, asking a bunch of questions, doing self-inquiry. It's just popping right in. Oh, you want to hurt yourself now. It's really, I love it. I like it. It's like everything immediately drops because it's such a quick recognition that I'm creating it. I'm creating the whole thing, just like you said, Amy, earlier, like it's all consciousness. I'm creating it. I am consciousness. So I know I didn't know what it's coming out kind of jumbled, but that doesn't matter. You guys get it. You guys get it. But so I just, oh wow. Altered dimensions, higher experiences. I get to live like this. Oh my God. Aren't you still in awe? Get to live like this. I'm not trapped in that cage. Many times I sat in that cage with the door wide open, but now I'm out of the cage. He did say, and I have experienced this also, that we are drawn back. He used those words, drawn back. I used to use the words, it seems very seductive, this thing about experience, these shadow experiences, that we're drawn back, but just keep on remembering. So I'm going to keep coming back.
Practice.
Yes.
Love us.
So thank you. I didn't know I was going to talk so long.
Did you talk long? I only heard you now. Hey, Barbie.
Yeah, I forgot to say, what I really liked, he gave us saying that, what was it? Pain is like, pain is like a train leading nowhere. And you have to jump off the track to get somewhere. And I like that. And I don't want pain anymore, so I'm jumping the track.
There was a whole potential teaching about the loop of experience that I looked at, perhaps offering relative to all that, but it didn't happen, not today. But Regina's pointing of how to step out of the loop of experience came up for me as I was listening to that part. And I'm sure it will come up in our community at some point. Hi, Deborah Ann. It's very nice to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's really lovely to be here. And obviously I'm new, newish. And, been attending Bill's, a lot of Bill's classes and see Amy in there and some others of you. And so, yeah, it's interesting. So this is my first session with the Open Door group. So thank you for this space. I have followed Guy Finley's work for quite a number of years. And I know initially when I was introduced to it, I think it was prior to, I don't know what his teacher, oh, I have I can't think of his name right now, who, but I guess really I was so drawn to his teachings and his manner and his style and his wordsmithing to me. You know, he can use words very beautifully, and yet at this point, I find that there's too many words for me in his talks, and but there's always tidbits that I'm able to glean through it, and there were many in this particular talk, but what kind of stood out was limited awareness of experience versus the unlimited experience of awareness. And Amy, you referenced that too. So it's like sometimes, so I just made myself some notes that so that limited awareness of experience is like seeing memories. And I think he sometimes refers to them as lifeless reflections. And I really like that. That pop up, you know, when we're triggered by something, or just the thoughts that are always, you know, coming in, and that limits the awareness to remain present. And those thoughts, those shadow thoughts that he talks about, like they're past associated, often negative memories and thoughts, re-experiencing past experiences. And it's like the mind steps in, this lower nature, which he often again refers to, trying to reanimate those shadows, those thoughts. And to me, it's almost like a form of reincarnation. You know, reincarnation's happening all the time when we are in that lower, identified with that lower, you know, thought process, just repeating itself in that loop, and that endless loop that he also talked about. And then when he went into unlimited experience of awareness, it just reminded me, like, it's that's our just, you know, our to stay present. That's being present when we're present, and to see maybe both, like what's happening outside as that disturbance is percolating, but maybe holding the opposites at the same time. It's almost like becoming aware of myself, seeing what I'm seeing, and in that there's the self-remembrance there. That's when the self-remembering, the self, the higher nature, remembering source, remembering that I am source, I am presence, I am the awareness. That to me is like the self-remembering. So I don't know.
No, it's beautiful.
It's
Yeah,
clear.
I first learned about Guy like 20 years ago. And then just as part of this, what do we call this class now? Finding Truth Everywhere. Um, Names pop up. It's a very intuitively guided choice of teachers, and um, you put beautifully in words an experience I was having. And he was pointing to truth. He just seemed to be using beautiful words sometimes, but a lot of them. Yeah. Well, that was a very fast hour. Anybody, did Kendall put anything in the chat that I missed? I don't have my chat open. Is there nothing from Kendall? Kendall? All right. I love us.
I love
What did
us
she?
more.
That was just an I love you, Kendall, and I'm always looking. All right.
So
Let me
glad you
stop.
found us, Deborah Ann.
Oh, thank you. I'm just really thrilled to be here.
It's
So,
nice meeting you.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll be back Monday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern with our
okay,
program.
okay.